Everybody do their sign-in sheets. Anybody that's got a cell phone, please put it on vibrate or turn it off, please. Okay, the opening of the meeting will have the privilege, well, I'm sorry, let me say that we got a full board here. We've also got Charlie Pearsall, both superintendent, assistant superintendent. We have Demetria, our lawyer. We've got our engineer. We've got our comptroller here. And I've got two people here also for the represent the village of Johnson City and the city of Binghamton, Livingston and Benjamin. Okay. And I've got one woman here that's just a concern interest. What's the name? Oh. I'm going to call a privilege of the floor. Is there anybody that wants to speak with any concerns? If not, I'll close the privilege of the floor and move on. Okay, fiscal officer's report. Chuck, you're up.
I'll start with the cash situation. We received all the receivables we had on the books through the second quarter of 2019 and prior. Currently we have $7,579,000 in the bank, $2 million in a checking account, $5.5 million in a money market account. For the year receivables, or not receivables, revenue, if you look at page 1, it looks like we're running a little bit low, seeing that we budgeted $20.7 million, we only have $3.9 received. The main reason for that is the village of Johnson City and the city of Binghamton's debt payments and local system costs have not been moved over there. We have some large payments coming up. I was going to wait till after that and move everything over. The other number that's pretty low is the state aid and federal aid, and that's, you know, basically waiting for FEMA and the state to come through and pay us, which who knows when they will. On the expense side, everything looks like it's tracking very well. The labor line is well underneath, electricity line is well underneath what was budgeted. There is a negative out there for the permit fees and fines of a minus $4,775. The city did not approve the RL that the board passed in June until July 2nd. That money is there now, okay, effective last week.
All the other some dispute over that, why they didn't get to it?
Originally, they didn't sign it out, George.
Yeah.
Okay, we didn't get enough people to sign it out.
Oh, okay.
And then after some discussion, we had a fourth person sign it out, and I believe all 7 of them voted for it.
Okay.
The next, on the invoices, Charlie, I got one question for you on the purchase orders we have out there. If you look at what we have out there for Simmons in the JF fund, it's like a total of $500,000. Do you think we're still going to spend all that?
Simmons, we got bids in 160 for the rest of this year, another 180 or so for a total like 325, 60,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. So not the whole $500,000, but a chunk of it.
And it's not gonna just be one more year, because by the time the construction concludes, which, you know, hopefully it's gonna be next year, but, you know, by the time all the retainage gets paid, so he gets canceled checks, you know, it's gonna take till probably the end of 2021, maybe even into 2022 before he's able to get everything settled with FEMA and the State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services. So there's a lot of work to go. I'm going to talk more about that, you know, finance report, because I met with them on some of this as well.
The only other thing that I have is the auditors that are coming in to do the audit. The books for last year, they came in yesterday morning, they started. Gonna expect they'll probably be here most of this week, going through the paperwork. They haven't left their desk yet, so I don't know if they've called you at all, Charlie, or not, but I'm not sure what they've actually been doing over there, like sitting there.
They did ask for some of the backup to the actuarial evaluation I sent to them. Is the only thing I heard.
Charlie, in the bills, didn't we just have one from Simmons for about $30,000? They wouldn't show also. Okay, so I go along with Ed's theory. We got a long ways to go.
That's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Anybody got any questions of Chuck? Seeing none, we'll move on to the.
Do you want me to cover the lead agency report, the construction? That's up to the chair.
Pardon?
Do you want me to cover the?
You might as well know what
Okay.
this is now, 'cause I mean.
You have in your board folders, and board members, was also emailed to you, the as of June 30th, 2019 chart report and the graph report for the lead agencies project. In summary, on the chart report, the contractual costs in place, and again, this is since July 2011, for the capital project, is $269,193,327.45 in contracts. About 86.8% of that has been paid out, or approved to pay, and with retainage about 90%. The construction, because that includes professional services and construction, the construction side of it, approved to pay is 85.4%, and with the retainage, it's 89.3%. One thing I wanted to point out on the construction demolition, the net change orders are 3.01% of the base contracts, which, by a lot of standards is considered well within acceptable tolerances or range. So that's important. That's important to note, and that's to the credit in some portion of Jacobs, because they're doing substantial negotiation on those. And so that's important to note. The other thing that's important to note on the chart report on page 3, TC Construction is through March 31st, 2019 work, because their invoices are on a lag, which I think is just because of the volume of documentation and the time it takes for the construction manager to reconcile those and their submissions before they're submitted up to the city to be given the final audit and approval. And Jacobs had said they haven't received all of TC's required submittals after, from April 1st, so that they can't pay the April invoice yet because of that. And that's what Jacobs is there to do, make sure that everything is done and documented. On the graph report, you can see, if you keep in mind or go back and look at prior months, that the green area is closing down as we get more completion. Again, the volume of the construction demolition pie graph and the professional services pie graph equals the overall graph size. The pictures, the one in the top center is from the end of May, and the one at the bottom left is from May 24th. And those I picked out of the camera roll that I get to see every month, you know, are to show that there's still a lot of work that has to be done, even though, you know, the project might be on an overall basis near 90%. There's still a lot of work that has to be completed in order to be able to start it up and grow the biomass and actually treat wastewater. So if anybody has any questions on that, my contact information is in these reports. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. So must be at that percentage, most of the equipment has been purchased, then, correct?
I can't say that. I know that there is equipment that has been purchased.
Yeah. Okay.
But I can't tell you specifically without
Because with another
going through it.
another year to go, you would think that quite a bit of that equipment would have to be at 85% signed off on. So, but anyway, that's just my opinion. Yeah.
You know, you're right, but I can't
Yeah,
get it.
I know, I just,
You know, that
Thanks.
like 73
you surprise me sometimes, so I think, Charlie, I guess let's go in, we can let the GHD wait a little while, yours runs a little long.
There should be in your folders report, or I believe it's all detailed on the cover sheet here. Still waiting for jar testing for our polymers. I understand we are going to get some sludge to fill the digester, which is one of the things that will allow us to move farther along that. We continue to pay the 3 DEC penalties. For board approval, we did receive one proposal for outside lab services from Pace Analytical, which is our current provider, and I would ask the board to approve that. We mailed out copies of it. It's a fairly extensive proposal. It's similar to what we have been paying. They build it in 3 portions, one is higher, one lower, and they're about the same, so I don't anticipate any additional costs with that. And I would encourage the board to approve Pace Analytical for a 12-month extendable period.
What's the budget line on that? It's not on your agenda.
54436. J8130
I make a motion that we accept the proposal from Pace Analytical and that we approve entering into a contract for the August 1st, 2019 to July 31st, 2020 service period in the form that's contained in our board folders, and authorize the chairman pro tem to sign the same on behalf of the board.
Second. Discussion?
I guess there's an addendum to that too, that we encumber that against J8130.54426.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. 501.
We received one proposal for lab certification of in-house lab from Worth Environmental, who also is currently our provider. And I understand after the proposal was signed, there was some additional negotiations that went on that I wasn't party to, so I'm not sure. I believe it's $135 an hour.
Correct. What I need to do is that I need a motion to reject the proposal.
I make that motion.
Second.
Discussion, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried 501. Now, what has happened is that I sat down, I didn't sit down, I called Kathy on the phone, and I got her to go back at $135 an hour, which she was, for the continuation, and it's going to be the continuation to whenever our lab director gets his license. And, so I need a motion from somebody to accept it, because otherwise we're in a pickle without it.
Did you ask her about why she's increasing the time from 10 hours a week to 15 hours a week max?
I didn't know that. Greg, do you have an answer?
No.
I can't support that without understanding
Well,
what that is.
I remember when she first quoted the price, she talked about 15 hours a week, and the board decided to try to get it down to 10 hours to be on a budget number which we worked off of. And I mean,
That's not right. Then she made a proposal. for
why
up to
did you
20
say that's incorrect?
She made a proposal for up to 20 hours per week, and it included a number of other services, and we selected only part A of the proposal, and we capped it at 10 hours a week.
Yeah, we kept it at 10 hours a week, but she said she thought it would run over. As a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, she thought that 15 hours a week would be more fair, but as being as stringent as we were, we turned around and we went with the 10 hours. So
We capped it at a price.
we did a price on the 10 hours a week for so many things. That's why we're running short. Okay, I got that. I agree. This so.
Has anybody heard that you have a problem keeping it under 10 hours a week, or should
Well,
working more than 10
when I
hours?
talked to her on the phone, she thought that it was gonna come closer to 15 hours a week. So, that's where we're at. I mean, if anybody else has got a different solution, please let me know. Because out of all, of bidding this and going out, we got one person hurt.
How many weeks are we talking?
Well, we're talking probably about, let's say a safe side 20 weeks. It's gonna be the middle of November before he gets the license, and then how long does New York State turn around to give him the license? I don't know. But it's better than signing up on a yearly contract with somebody.
I would rather go with the amount.
And then we're gonna be back at the same situation for 1 month or 2 weeks or 1 week. That's, I mean, I'd just like to till the person gets his license.
I thought in the RFQ, we said it could be extended on a monthly basis.
Yeah. So we did have a provision, as long as the rate didn't change. It's right, professional service, so you can make it whatever period you both agree to.
Right. So you got that, or you got my verbiage, which means until the person gets his license. Is that being extended too, that way?
Defer to Al, who doesn't like soft targets or something like that.
What's the question?
Can you write into the agreement that it's until our current plant manager has his certification, which is kind of an open-ended date?
We don't have a date for that.
The earliest I believe you can get is like November 15th, which is how this was kind of geared for, to make it an even 18 weeks.
Well, we can make it terminable on so many days' notice after a certain date. So we'll make it, after November 15, we can terminate on 7 days' notice, for example.
If she's available.
So 18 weeks, where does that take you?
Why can't we?
November
make it-
15th.
Or does it take you?
Why can't we make it until we
In fact, it's
secure the
on the
license?
second.
I mean, you can't walk up to somebody today and say, listen, you're done. I mean, you gotta give them some notice that, their services are coming to an end. I mean,
No, she's in agreement with it. Once he gets the license,
with no notice,
with no
Just-
notification, right?
walk around the building that day and.
I don't know.
She might want to.
If that's fine, if that's agreeable to everybody, I'll do it.
Transition, yeah. She might want to transition some of the data where she's at
over to the new lab director.
Well, I'm sure the new lab director gets her, transition now, right?
Yeah,
That's neat.
She talks with them.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm back to the 10 and the 15 hours. She's done it at 10 hours. I mean,
Now, according to Ed, she's been running about 15 hours.
No, that's not what I said.
Then I heard you wrong.
how many hours has she been there? I mean, she's submitted,
Approximately 10 hours.
she's submitted,
She's just been at 2 kills already.
yeah, based on 10 hours a week.
About.
Yeah, she's doing this for extra hours.
So if that was the case, then what's your, I don't understand, Ed, your objection to it, because you said.
We're objecting because it says 15 and we think it should be 10.
Right, if there's not a problem with 10, or based on what, if she's been doing it for 10, now she wants 15, based on what?
She's not based it on anything. We based it on 10 before, and if she's running into there, then at that and doing the job that we need her, just keep her there. I mean, it might run over an hour longer or an hour less. I don't know. I haven't kept tabs on it. I mean, this is the first I heard, and I sort of got the opinion from you, Ed, that she was sort of going up to 15 hours.
She worded it as not to exceed 15.
Oh, not to
Right,
exceed.
that's an estimate of
Well,
12 to
hey,
15.
let's put it this way, if you were doing something like that, wouldn't you also, turn around and say you're gonna have some heavier loads during, certain parts of the week? Because I assume she's gotta come in at least once a week, am I correct?
Twice a week.
Right, and sometimes the workload's gonna get heavier. So what do you do, say, you get it for free on these two?
This proposal says, the schedule on site will vary, but will be between 12 to 15 hours per week.
Is that's the proposal?
That's her proposal.
That's the one she bid, that's the one we just obsoleted.
Right.
Right, okay.
Okay,
And what we had previously approved was up to 10 hours a week. And we haven't heard anything from her that that's unsatisfactory or not feasible. I mean, there's been no correspondence or anything else.
Well, no, we got when did the bid proposal come in? Today?
No, this was
Yesterday?
all right.
July 8th.
George, she wouldn't submit a proposal if she wasn't happy with how things were going.
No, I understand, I'm not saying that, but she also submitted a higher price.
George, for 18 weeks at $135 an hour, 10 weeks is a little short of, or 18 weeks. What did I say?
You said 10 weeks.
Yeah, so
18 weeks at $135 an hour.
So you're at $20,000.
Is a little less than 25,000.
It's gotta be a lot less than 20.
Well, just 24
Or something?
and 12 hours a week at 135, it's a little less than 30,000, 29 to 160. I would be happy with a not to exceed motion for one or the other. She said,
Where?
the last time she said between 10 and 15 hours and we gave her 10. This time she's saying between 12 and 15, and if we give her 12 hours with a not to exceed $30,000 for 18 weeks, I think everybody's.
And so, let's turn around and let's accept her contract here, even though we denied it, at $25 an hour extra. Where does that get you?
$15 an hour.
Huh?
Yeah, 15.
35 to 60?
35 to 50.
No, 60, 160. Okay? That was her bid proposal. So where does that $25 an hour get you? And what I'm saying is, where do we go? We have no other choice. I tried to bargain, got it down to the 135.
Okay, 135, not to exceed 12 hours a week, 18 weeks.
All right, 12 hours,
She said 12 to 15.
well, somebody wanted 10, it started off.
No,
Well, that's what you're doing now.
Yeah, 10. I was asking, is there a problem with 10? Her proposal is 12 to 15.
Well, Ed, I think you probably looked at the bills probably at more than I did on that. Did she have any time billing less than 10 hours?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
but, you know, some picture looks at it too.
Yeah, okay. Well, for some reason, I looked at the bill, but I must have missed it. I usually go through pretty good on the hours or that
She's
stuff.
listed hours.
Yeah, she's billing, she's sending.
I'm not saying she doesn't, but I didn't see it on the bill. Okay, then I missed it. I apologize for that.
What has she averaged for the past couple of months?
She's been keeping it under 10.
She's sending the monthly invoice.
So we're gonna make it not to exceed, make a motion not to exceed 12 hours?
Let's make a motion not to exceed $30,000 for 18 weeks. And that would be 12 hours a week times 135 plus some.
And that 18 weeks, if we don't procure the license, then we do it over again?
Yeah.
We're gonna extend it a week at a time.
So.
Month at a time. That's what they're doing most of the time.
Okay.
I think the month at a time was consistent with.
How about we change it to,
Recording and.
how about if we change it to week in the time since, now, why not?
Because the recording is like monthly to the DC, exactly, that's why.
Right, I know, but if he gets his license and she gets through with her records, our life, we can pick it up and.
Usually it's better to have a clean cut.
Okay.
The end of a month.
I don't disagree with that.
She signs all the stuff for that month, the next month it's on him.
I don't disagree with that. Okay. All right, who's making the motion?
What's the budget line on this?
544, 1
Yes, okay. That's what I thought. I just wanted to double check. So I make a motion that we authorize the board acting or chairman pro tem to enter into a contract with Worth Environmental Incorporated for professional services to act as lead technical director and quality assurance officer for the Joint Sewage Treatment Plant, New York Certified Lab number 10502, for a period of 18 consecutive weeks commencing July 15, 2019, at an hourly rate of $135 per hour, not to exceed, well, we'll leave the not to exceed hours out, but at a not to exceed price during that service period of $30,000 to be encumbered and paid from budget line J8130.54410.
Second. Discussion?
You were talking about an extension of time too? How do you extend it?
monthly there.
Yeah.
Weeks, 4 weeks?
Monthly.
Months? I don't like months, because I don't know if a month is 28 days, 30 or 31.
The next calendar month.
The end of the month, do I go end of the month? I don't
And the
know.
reports are done that month.
Yeah.
and then,
Where does 18 weeks
Middle of
take you for July 15th?
November 22nd. That's a Friday.
Takes you to July, November.
22nd.
November 22nd.
Why aren't we just going to the end of November?
Because November is when we pick up our last picks up his license.
Yeah, but if you're saying you want the service to go to the end of the month, rather than making it 18 weeks, why don't you just say July 15th through November 30th?
Right. Is that a business day?
for the planting is,
Yeah, right.
it's a Saturday.
Okay. Is that- Okay.
And that extension, full month after that, right?
Yep.
Extensions on a monthly basis.
1 month at a time.
Okay.
All right, that's another $3,240.
Okay.
I think you can do that within the 30,000. You go to November.
The end of November?
Yeah.
We'll go that way, and if we run out, then we'll just be back. That's fine.
Now, the extension, obviously, you're gonna have to increase that not to exceed amount.
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
Well, you can do that when you authorize the month anyway. It's not an automatic. It's gotta be approved for a month. When you do the approval for a month, you can add the dollar figure.
Right.
Assuming we only
Which
use 10
way-
hours some days.
Yeah, which way we might, I mean, we might know that he's accepted before the end of the month.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason is if you've got the option, you can't leave any terms unstated,
Right.
because then she can say, no, I don't agree to it, leave. And that's the only, I suggest. Not to exceed whatever, multiply 12 by,
Yeah. 32,000.
That's not that much. We're talking about, Charlie, we're talking about 19 weeks then, right?
yeah.
19 or 20.
Because
I had
18 weeks, Charlie, you said gets to November 22nd.
22nd.
Yeah, so 19 weeks gets to November 29th, which is effectively the end of November. Okay.
Okay, so. all
So if we make that, change, to make it for 19 weeks through the end of November, then we would change the not to exceed amount from $30,000 to $30,780.
31. Hit 31.
So that is the motion, all right?
Then make an amendment to the motion to change it to that, or just want?
We didn't vote on it yet.
All right.
It's just-
All right.
And then 1 month at a time thereafter, we'll consider not to, I'd just like to have not to exceed in there for on a monthly basis. I mean, if you go 12 times 4, that's 48 hours. You can even just say 50 hours for a month at 135. 50 times 135.
I wouldn't worry about that when we get there, Al.
Yeah.
Well, all right, I mean,
Let's not scare her. She's our only game in town. I don't know why we're making this so complicated. All right, so that was your motion, Ron.
No
Did
change
you
in terms or
second it?
conditions.
Ron second, but Al wanted something.
yeah, I mean, usually if you've got an option, the price, the amount is stated in that option. You don't leave a variable in there. And right now, you've got a variable, which is the not to exceed amount for that month. I'm just saying, come up with an amount. And I'm saying that at this, that's
$6,750.
exactly it. At 50 hours for the month.
Is that your motion, Steve?
That's Ed's motion. I would make an amendment to his motion.
We didn't vote on it yet. Leave that alone. Ed, is that your motion? And I think Ron's gonna second it.
What's the motion say now? Because I'm confused, because the motion I made is not the motion.
Then there's an agreement.
No, I want you to make the motion now that what we just discussed here, and don't ask me to clarify it. because
With at $135 an hour, not to exceed 12 hours, not to exceed 31,000 for, through November 30th, and then with extensions on a monthly basis of not to exceed $6,750.
Now, the only thing I thought you took out was 12 hours. He didn't care how many hours per week, so long as you had not to exceed amount in there.
And then that is Steve's suggestion too, because maybe there is some reason why some month it might be higher. And it's budget line J8130.54410, just for the record.
Okay, that's Ray's motion. Who seconds it?
I'll second.
Okay, very good. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, carried, 501.
And the city controller, I'm asking the board to authorize moving $500,000 out of the J fund reserve and make the necessary entries to place it in the HX fund. There is in your packets the account details. This is for K5 Media from Cougar.
Is this the insurance payment?
We had received a settlement after the Norwegian, this is, it's not for a specific quantity, but it is that dollar amount we had in reserve, so.
Well, this is the one that Chuck was upset with, right?
George.
I don't recall.
Okay.
And it's only the top half of this sheet that's the
Yeah.
sewage plant budget, right?
Yes.
Okay.
There should also be a budget amendment. There is enough in the line to cover this. But we had 4 million put in there for FEMA recoveries, so it wouldn't hurt to also do a budget amendment to increase the fee lines for the revenue and, or for the revenue and transfer to lines.
The amendment would be the line items on the right, increase revenue line J 42,680 and increase, expense line J 8130.54899, which is reimburse owner's expense.
So that's really all you're looking for, Chuck?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. That makes it much easier.
Okay.
So we don't have to do anything else on these intermediate steps?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so I make a motion that we approve a budget modification for the purchase of BAF filter media from the settlement from the litigation that was a prior year in the amount of $500,000, and that we decrease revenue budget line J.42680 insurance recoveries by $500,000. That we increase the expenditure budget J8130.54899 by $500,000.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried, 501.
And we have received an invoice from the city. So this moves it from needing board approval more to informational, because we have all the pieces now. It's for half of the work from
GDP.
Yes. It's for the digester equipment, the mixing system, and I guess other equipment to go.
For all digesters or just one?
This is for the turbo mixer, compressor, and associated equipment for digester 3, but it also includes testing for some of the parts and equipment for digesters 1 and 2.
Oh,
But the budget line is just digester mixing equipment. So it's there. This is for half down. It was approved by Jerry Nystrom, so don't have any confirmation that it's in place, but I can assume based on his signature, it's met their approval.
It's also initialed off at the bottom left by Steve Thomas. You know, just so you know.
Never met him.
But he works for Jerry.
Not familiar with it.
For who?
Scott?
Jerry.
Scott Thomas?
Scott Thomas, thank you.
Still not familiar, but that's the part I was missing. I didn't need to vote approval without an invoice. We got the invoice just before, so now it's more information. I'll process it as a purchase order. We had already encumbered that money, by the way, in 2018.
Was about 150,000.
325,000.
But I mean,
The bill itself.
we had discussion on buying this, and I thought we were at about 150,000, so I think we saved
This is one for half.
10,500.
The whole contract, this is only 50%, the whole contract's 278.
Oh, yeah,
Which is still less than the.
Yeah. yeah.
So somebody could come back.
And then pending and upcoming, the 2020 budget was submitted by the superintendent to the board. The single audit, as Chuck mentioned, began this Monday, so things are charging ahead. And that's it for me.
Really? Okay, that's good.
Is the superintendent gonna speak to that budget as part of his report?
Today? No.
Okay. Nothing you wanted to highlight?
Jason, it's a little bit running behind, but now you can come up. This is Jason Green, GHC, doing the RWTP status.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm here to present on the monthly status report, as George indicated, for pre-Christmas.
And I included the other one.
What's that?
I included the other attachment.
The memo? Okay.
So, yeah.
So the first item I was going to go through is just the basic status report, followed by the information in the memo. But for the status report itself, I think the biggest, update on the program, we got a violation from SUNY Broom for a couple different discharge issues, so we're kind of chasing that down. They've had a couple of violations recently in a row here, so we're, I guess, trying to pursue that and see what the issue is. Couple metals, oil and grease. So they're not really sure why yet. We're trying to kind of dig into that. So we're waiting to hear back from them on cause for that excursion. Kind of more housekeeping. We did updates on inspection compliance letters from last year, where we kind of provide the results from our sampling exercises so that all users have access to that information. And that's the ones we do as an audit of their system. Other than that, we're doing PCR reviews as they're starting to come in for the first half of 2019. They're mostly due at the end of June, so we're just getting them in now. Some of them are due by the end of July. So we're kind of getting into that. We're working through our annual inspections for the year. We got 4 done last month. And then working through some permit renewals. I don't know if everyone saw the news on I3 Assembly or I3 Electronics. They were permitted. They've got the old GMR Electronics building, which used to be Landers Soaps. So there was an announcement in the news that looks like they're shipping some of their manufacturing off to somewhere in the Midwest. So I think we're going to hear at some point here in the near future some kind of feedback on what that entails for the facility that we have permitted in this, for this system. Other than
Does
that,
it impact your permit renewal for them at this point, or you just go ahead the way it is, right? If they want to modify it later, they modify it.
yeah, they've continued to operate under the existing permit, and we were working with them on a particular water connection they had into their wastewater system. And so we were kind of working through that. And with this news, if we're not sure what's going to happen, I would probably recommend we stick with the permit we have and continue to administer until we, I guess, know what their plans are moving forward. And then we got 4 or 5 other permits we're looking to renew. Mountain Fresh Dairy hasn't really been in operation, but they continue to say that they're not completely shut down. I mean, there's still one maintenance guy.
Why they still getting grant money, that's why they don't want to get shut down.
I don't know what the story is. From a wastewater perspective, so we're staying in touch with them, but I don't see much happening there. Crystal and Chemical, that's kind of, going on as usual, and then Binghamton University and Buckeye Terminals are the other 2 renewals. One other thing I added, which we haven't shown in previous reports that's new to this report, is on the 2nd page. There is a summary of all the fines that have been issued so far using that fine structure that we implemented last year. So we're following up with each user that has a fine kind of levied against them. The biggest one is BCC because they just at the very end of June, they had a lot of violations which racked up a lot of charges there, so that's the $1,900 you see.
Well, what did they say?
They don't know yet. They haven't really said what the issue is, but it was oil and grease, copper, and mercury.
Yeah, I see that. And that was, what, a month ago, or just recently, or?
It's just recently that they had that largest number. And they're resampling, and then the resampling results in coming back with, mixed issues as well. So, but I don't know what they're doing in those buildings that would be bringing rise to this change, because we haven't had these violations in the past. All these sampling points are the same sampling points we've been using for several years for them. So it's their responsibility to tell us what their issue is. We can hypothesize all we want, but in the meantime, we kind of leave it to them to at least give us some direction on what they deem the issue. And so then the other piece was that memorandum, if there's no questions on the status report.
Are these fines being sent out certified mail through the plant or through your office?
Through the plant.
Okay. So we know they're getting through.
That was one of the issues actually, where it was E-Systems.
E-Systems said they never received it, and finally they did. They did get their card back, but they still say we're not paying.
We called them yesterday, and they claimed that they didn't realize that there was a fine. And as they were reading the letter back to us, they read through the part that says that there's a fine. So then they claimed they were gonna get right on it.
Okay.
It's getting people's attention, if nothing else, which was what our hope was. So.
Is that the English teacher?
So for the memo that I provided here as a kind of a bridge to this, this is just following up on the local limits question that we had between what was ratified back in 2007 and what was in the headworks analysis in 2006 that we did, that Stearns and Wheeler performed, and then kind of where we are today. And basically what we were attempting to do starting last fall with Kathy still here and talking with Al was we were recommending at that time to do a correction to the local limits, to adjust them to match what the EPA had approved in our letter to them with their response back approving those limits that we proposed. And then through course of conversation with the board, we were asked just to kind of go back and look at the numbers and see from 2006 to today what's changed. So we didn't do a full headworks analysis, which is a larger exercise. But between the last meeting where I was here in May till today, we went back and looked through the current numbers we have, the old headworks analysis calculation, and kind of gave it a little update to say, if you update the users, the flow rates that we have permitted, and then some of the data we have from the plant, kind of where are we at today. So in doing that, what we found was the amount of allocated metals that we have in the individual permits that are all actively in service right now has gone down by 30% for all 3 of those metals that were of concern. And the influent copper loading to the plant, which we've checked on a monthly basis, that has gone down if you look at the long-term trend which is the graph that's attached, just to give perspective that basically over the last 10 years, we've been seeing a slight decrease in copper loading to the plant. So from a numbers perspective, we are in better shape today, 2018, 2019, to go back and kind of reassert those EPA-approved local limits than we were even back in 2006, where we had the written basis and explanation that we had used at that time. So, I don't know if everyone's had a chance to read through them. I know it's pretty brief, but if you have any questions that I can answer. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to add, I had talked to a contact that we have at EPA, or that I have at EPA, that used to do pretreatment administration, and they're now doing a different department. And I just asked kind of the question without, more in general terms, like philosophically based on the mechanics of what we're going through here and what we've done, and how we've been administering the program, what their recommendation was and what their thoughts were on it. And they said if the EPA received a letter with recommended limits, and they approved those limits, they said in the eyes of EPA, those are the numbers, those are the limits that you'd be administering, which are the ones that we've been using for the last 10 years or 12 years in the pre-treated program. So that basically corroborates what we're trying to accomplish, which is to do this correction. And they even said that on the phone, is that they would just make a correction to your local limits to adjust the numbers so they match. And since the EPA hasn't seen those lower numbers in terms of that approval letter, they said that they wouldn't.
So we would do a correction to the limits that EPA has already approved?
No.
Yeah, we would do a correction to the limits that we ratified, or that the board ratified, which include those 3 lower numbers that we want to bring up to match what was in the approved letter that EPA approved. So there's like 6 or 8 local limits, and there's just the 3 that were slightly lower in terms of what got ratified versus what we've been administering.
So the local limits would match the EPA's limits.
That is correct. And would match what's in all the permits that are in circulation.
So what do we have?
And you're talking about just the 3 parameters? Not all the parameters? Just
No, because the rest of them still match between
the rest of them are
headworks.
okay?
Yeah, everything lines
Just
up.
checking.
Yep.
Do you have a graph like this for the other 2 parameters?
We do not. What we found is we only have annual data for the other 2 parameters,
Right.
and we have monthly for the copper.
Yeah, there's a note. There's a note on that graph.
Okay.
So what we tried to do is get the low-hanging fruit that was quick to get, that we could kind of, check back and see where we're at. And that was basically looking at the allocated loads, which is a big piece that plays into that calculation for local limits or for headworks analysis. Because basically the way the EPA sees it is if you have a permit in circulation and it has a limit, you have to assume everybody's just charging right at that limit, and that's what kind of eats up your allocation. What in reality happens is none of these guys discharge close to the limit on a regular basis. So you really have more room, but the system's just set up to be foolproof and say you're under the bar. And then that graph, at least for copper, shows that the calculated headworks loading was 17.5 pounds, and that long-term trend of that average is kind of trending from about 12.5 down to like 9 pounds per day.
For nickel and for zinc, is it possible to create this kind of graph but just on the monthly data?
On the annual data, we could.
Oh, you only have annual data, okay.
So the problem is, what happens is you see these kind of
Yeah.
hopscotching around.
Well,
There's
just
one-
like you see it on here too, it's the way it is.
Yep, yeah. But it's 1 day every 365 days as far as what data set we have. So at least there we had enough points we could pick, I think, 120 points. So that was, at least gave us some kind of confidence that you've got enough data to feel like you've got a trend in play. So what we would recommend, if the board was interested or was confident or comfortable with it, would be kind of going through with a correction to the local limits that we already have. We would refer to it as that, but mechanically we'd have to go through, I think Ed, you were saying it's a 90-day or 30-day notice. And then
I don't know.
Public hearing.
30 days, it's just we have to have a public hearing status.
Okay. I just remember from previous conversation, there's,
I think we've
procedure.
always tried to make it at least 30 days, just out of fairness to
Mhm.
whoever might want to comment, especially because this is a technical subject. And
But whatever that exercise is, or whatever that first process is, we would work with, in theory, Al, and make sure the language from a technical perspective and from a legal perspective makes sense, and then take that to the board or whatever to ratify.
I don't like it with your icing.
I think we should, I mean, this is something we've been kicking around for a while. Let's take care of it. Get it done.
And based on looking at the numbers and having that
Yeah, I mean, this
conversation,
is something we haven't had before, it's great to be able to see this.
so you definitely have more room in terms of what we, what we have allocated. So you got 30% more space right there. And if you go back and look at kind of how we got here and how we made the recommendations the first time, we had a founding for that one back then. And now we're in theory saying we have even more room today. So I feel comfortable from a technical perspective.
So what do we have to do? We have to give him the go ahead?
We have to have Al come back to us with the legal notice so that we can ratify publishing it and hold the hearing.
And I think that's what we had in draft form last fall. Al,
About a year ago.
Yeah, it was you and Kathy and I.
I don't have it here with me today.
Oh, done.
But if you wanted, we could follow up and kind of discuss that or refresh our memories on that, and then.
Good idea.
Okay, that'll be right out for next time then.
Yep. Right, and then we'd set the hearing the following month or whatever.
Okay. I will send it to you when I have it, did you make whatever changes? I know you've already looked at it at least once.
We were pretty comfortable with it back when we did it last time, so I think,
I don't know if any of the,
we'll just.
any of the
refresh it.
background information needs to be updated or not.
The way I recall it, it was basically saying this was a correction to the previously applied or updated local limits, with some terminology like that.
I don't know if you want to add something
Technical,
to
right.
there, to the effect that, this won't have any adverse impact upon operations or limits or whatever.
Yeah, send it to me and I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
And Craig, I'll copy you and Elliot since,
Okay.
I copied Kathy and Michelle, but Kathy was part of that back when we did it the first time.
Okay,
And I wouldn't be scheduled to be here next month unless you guys want me to be here to.
goodbye.
So I'll hear if I need to hear anything after next month's meeting, if there's any questions about the
If there is,
proposed language.
we'll be in.
Yeah, the public hearing is probably be two months from now.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Time.
We can get that.
Yeah. Okay.
What would really help would be to get whatever the proposal is a couple of weeks ahead of the meeting so that we can email it if there's any questions, so we get a fair chance to respond. I mean, this memo that we got Friday afternoon at like 3:24 by email. And that's not a lot of time necessarily to, with other things going on, to be able to study it.
I apologize for the lack of notice.
I mean, it didn't come from you, it came,
No, but I have to get it to her.
Yeah, I'm not sure, it's like.
Oh, yeah, put the blame on me.
No, I'm not.
It may or may not have been last Wednesday, Ed, where I was trying to polish it up just before the
Anybody got any questions of Jason? If not, Jason, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a
Yep.
nice trip back.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
Yeah, but Ron Lake is requesting to go in executive session. That's why.
We can skip that, George.
I can skip that?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Ron Lake, you're up.
Yes, sir. Do you have questions?
Do you have any answers?
They're out there somewhere.
You give us the answer, and we'll give you the question. So,
When are you gonna start the river?
A day?
Monday.
Yeah, I see this.
That's not him, but I just wanted to
He's
get
got
it
his
out.
pile of rocks out there.
When do they plan on paving the place?
As soon as they have it ready from what they're saying. I can't pin them to a day, but they say they're working on it and it'll be soon.
So, in other words, we've gotta make different, for parking, because.
And they're supposed to let us know so we can do that, and hopefully we can get a lot of
They're
you
gonna
across
tell
the
us the
street.
day before that we can't park there the next day. I mean, we'd like to do some type of a schedule.
I know,
Was it mentioned that they might be able to do it on weekend too, or?
that was a possibility, but getting them to do it on a weekend might,
I gotta ask you one question, and that's something that was brought up before, on those 5 valves that were either installed backwards or there's 2 different directions. Jerry Nystrom was supposed to turn around and have the manufacturer come down themselves to let us know which was the correct way, because they had 2 different prints for the same valve going different ways, and I have not heard a word, and that's been at least 2 months ago.
the manufacturer actually came out and said they could go either way, but they're being turned to the way that we assumed they should have been. So all of